Hi, we're finally in the 50th episode. That's 500 games. We've done it, guys, and the series is complete with a single huge video to release very soon. Don't worry though, it's not the end of Obscurdos, and there will be more of them coming, but they will be supplemental and not part of this main run, as I will have to dig much deeper to find more games. Also, make sure to watch all the way to the outro. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. Timegate Knight's Chase is a 3D action adventure built upon Alone in the Dark's engine, and the same as the original title using the tech, it mixes combat with puzzling for its gameplay loop. You play as William Tibbs, a young American law student in Paris who is mysteriously summoned throughout time by the last of the Knight Templar to face the overwhelming evil in the form of Wolfram, an evil Dark Lord. And since Wolfram, being as bad entity as he is, also somehow, for whatever the reason, decided to kidnap your modern-time girlfriend Juliet. If I had to draw a guess here, I'd say that it's no doubt for perverse reasons. With her gone, you really don't need any extra incentive to agree to help the Knight Templar in bringing Wolfram's reign to an end. So, you jump back in time, as one does in Paris, straight into 1329, to serve some serious ass-whooping and save the world once more. You know, as you tend to do at least 3-4 times whenever I release a video. While the combat doesn't happen all too often, it suffers from the same issues it did in Alone in the Dark, namely automatically switching camera. To combat the character getting stuck behind the foreground objects, Timegate makes sure to have its backgrounds drawn in a way that would prevent them from covering large chunks of the screen, which may be more of a band-aid type of a solution rather than the medicine, but it helps a little. Puzzles are a definite highlight of it all, especially that those that require your noggin to work are not too demanding, so everyone should be able to enjoy them and complete the game. Environmental ones though? Well, these are something else. Many of them are extremely difficult. Dodging lasers or following the footsteps are not as fun as they may have been if the game was in real full 3D with a camera following you directly from behind. Still, overall, as a package, Timegate is pretty darn cool, and if you enjoy action-adventure games, it should be somewhere on top of your to-play list of titles. Oh, and don't expect the Templar story to grow into something bigger or more detailed though, it serves here only as a background. Kinda like my talking in this video does, it's the background to the footage and not vice versa. Time paradox is what happens whenever my boss's wife ascends from the depths of hell and comes to work. Cause whenever she's not there, time seems to fly by as if I was having fun. And as soon as she arrives, it stops and fails to move at all, freezing anything and everything but the pain of her fiery burning personality. So, whether she stays there for an hour or 4, it feels like infinity and drags forever. Plus, she sucks out life out of anyone she comes in contact with. So when she's ready to leave, leaving a trail of burnt ash and stench of sulfur behind, all of us in the office are shriveled, dried up shadows of our former selves, just eyeing the hands of a clock hoping that they would start moving. Honestly, I'd rather have a week-long diarrhea than have her come to work 2 days in a row. That's how terrible of a demon she is. Anyway, Time Paradox that we'll actually tackle in today's video is a point-and-click adventure game that released only in Europe. I kinda get why too, it's pretty short, not too difficult, and with a rather blunt and predictable story. That said, fans of point-and-clickers would probably find a way to enjoy it anyway, especially that it can be completed in 7-8 hour stops. And I'm gonna blow your mind here. I bet that this could be cut down to 4-5ish hours, if the main character, a woman named Kay, would move at the normal pace. Instead, she seems to be tiptoeing her way around the game world, taking her sweet time. Anyway, like I said, you play as Kay, and she's on a hell of a ride through time, from prehistoric era through medieval times all the way to the present day. All to save Merlin from evil witches Morgana Le Fay's clutches. Time Paradox's presentation is not bad. I mean, it's definitely not 1996 good, but it's also not something that would detract you from playing. It looks a bit dated as originally it was supposed to release in 1993, but something happened and delayed it. What was the reason for the delay? I don't know, and frankly I don't care either. So if adventure games are your absolute #1 genre, check it out. Otherwise, picking nearly any other game, preferably something from LucasArts or Sierra, will be a better choice. Time Race is a time race. No, really, it is. There are folks in the top half of the screen going from left to right, and they represent the time that you have to complete each stage. Initially, they're prehistoric cavemen, you know, at Flintstones tech level, so clubs, rocks, the likes, but as you power through the game, their development level will change too, and they will progress through the ages along with you. They're just a glorified timer though, and only serve as a background to all the puzzling, so other than aesthetically pleasing and as a clock, they serve no function at all. Anyway, Time Race is a puzzler, in which you must connect triangles with other triangles of the same color by moving and rotating them. And when they do, connect that is, they disappear. When you connect different colored triangles, nothing happens. But when you eventually fill them up to create squares of mixed colors, the whole square will disappear along with the game board piece underneath, effectively raising the difficulty level by leaving you less space to work with. Time Race may not be the most innovative or fun puzzler out there, but it's decent, and the time spent at it having your noggin steaming will most definitely not feel wasted. The presentation is rather nice, even if not great. The characters move slowly and jerkily, but that's not down to their quality, but rather fact that they serve as a timer, and shouldn't move too fast, leaving you with enough time for playing. There's 30 levels in the game, which given the source material seems plenty enough, and I don't think that you'll be craving anymore after going through these. Seven-year-old Tom and his mother are on holidays in Scotland. Fun, right? He marvels at the beauty of the land, nature and wilderness in the deep north, and she appreciates different kinds of whiskies, sampling any and all she can lay her hands on. They have fun, is what I'm saying. And one day, when they're touring an old castle, you know, one with toilets that would have all the poo fall out from the sides of the castle, and corridors lit up with torches, and they're having the time of their lives, one sober, the other not so much, suddenly, and out of nowhere, an evil sorcerer appeared and kidnapped Tom's mother. Now, what a sorcerer was doing in 1990 in Scotland, I do not know. Perhaps he missed the last train to Hogwarts, but he's there and he took the mother. Tom, being a young lad and knowing very well what old and wrinkly dudes do to young and slightly tipsy single mothers, decided to save her. Fortunately, right on time it seems, a ghost of brave Sir Reginald Arrow appears and vouches to lend him a hand. One would think that's very nice of him and that he truly was a knight like no other even years after his own death, but that's hardly the case here. It seems that evil sorcerer kidnapped Sir Reginald's beloved 500 years prior to sacrifice her to Lucifer, and it's just a perfect opportunity for Reginald to avenge her. So he assumes the corporeal form, and along with Tom they head off on a quest of epic proportions to stop the sacrifice ritual and save Tom's mother before it's too late. Tom and the Ghost is an action-adventure platformer in which you control Sir Reginald with Tom closely following by. Reginald can walk, jump, duck, fight, collect, combine and use items. Tom does jack shit. I mean, he's a kid and you can't expect much of him, but he's there, keeping you company at least. Oh no, wait, he does something after all. Yep, he's annoying. Cause whenever he gets exhausted, you gotta feed him burgers and milkshakes to fuel that lactose and gluten-powered farts, and when he's upset, you need to give him his teddy bear to cheer him up. So yeah, not only you need to save Tom's mother all alone, you also have to keep an eye on him, don't lose him, kill or avoid any and all enemies you may encounter, and take revenge for your beloved and sorcerer's other victims. I complain, and the fact is that Tom and the Ghost is actually pretty fun, so if you like platformers, don't skip it. It's a hidden gem among them. Top Hat Willy originally released on the Amiga in 1994 as a homage to old-time 8-bit classic Jet Set Willy, and then was ported to DOS in 2002. It's a flick-screen arcade platformer in which we play Willy and have to collect all the trash in and around the mansion. Why does he have to do it? Hard to tell. He's not a janitor. That's clear, he is, after all, wearing a top hat. So maybe he's a magician looking for something he'd lost in the mansion. The reason is irrelevant. Trash is scattered everywhere and makes this otherwise cozy mansion and its grounds look rather run down. So you speed around the stages, collecting it all. Naturally, touching any of the enemies, spikes or falling from great heights causes you to lose a life. And there's only 9 of these. Yes, only. So beware. Be vigilant, be careful and be precise. The enemies that you'll be avoiding come in such a spread of forms, from rolling razors through bunny rabbits to TV sets even, that I question Willy's sanity. He's either completely off his rockers or at least under the influence of strong psychoactive substances. One should wonder whether to feel for him or be jealous, but I've yet to meet someone who's as high as he is and feels that cleaning up is what's on the agenda. Anyway, Top Hat Willy's presentation is simply put terrible. It looks and feels 8-bit, and while there's definitely a certain charm to it, by 2002 it wasn't very appealing. If you enjoyed ZX Spectrum's original or Being Punished, then by all means, check Top Hat Willy out, it's quite fun, in a slightly masochistic kind of a way. Tower's Lord Baniff's Deceit is a single-player first-person perspective real-time RPG, very similar in its presentation and mechanics to much better, deeper and more demanding Eye of the Beholder games. As you and your companions travel to Era 2s to help in the war against evil Sargon, your ship encounters a magical storm, and somehow a 6-foot hole is ripped in it. And as it's about to sink, an onboard wizard, because of course the ship has its own wizard, held the waters back using his powers until you could land on the nearest island. As it turns out, you landed on an island known only as the Land of Towers. Why is it called that way? Well, the beautiful land is chock full of them. Whichever way you turn, there are towers. You know, Tower of Dreams, Tower of Destiny, Tower of Power, Tower of Undercooked Steaks, Tower of Old Floppy Disks, Tower of Disappointing Outcomes, and even DHV Tower. What's that? Well, it stands for Department of Horse Vehicles. It's where you go when you need to obtain or renew your horse riding scroll. The lines there are out of this world. The point is, there's a lot of towers all around. Dozens of them, and each populated by a different lord, his family and servants. Since your ship will need extensive repairs, and all you could muster checking your pockets for money were a broken piece of a chopstick, couple of buttons, and a rusty old bottle cap, you decide to find a job to earn some money while you wait for the ship to be fixed. The mayor of the port town asks you to go to Lord Baniff's tower, request audience with him, and see what's what, cause no one heard from him in a pretty long while. Naturally, you agree and head off. As you enter the old structure though, the doorway behind you collapses, trapping you inside. This is where you pick one of 4 uniquely skilled adventurers to play as, and head off to find the Lord, as you can't really go back now, can you? The tower is 15 levels strong and filled with various enemies and treasures/items to find and use. Magic is casted using spell incarnations learned from scrolls and by combining syllables. Combat plays out in real time and is nothing special really, at least when comparing it to giants of the genre. Environmental puzzling is pretty common too, and may prove to be enjoyable if you're a fan of the mechanic. Towers, even if simple, is fun if you like RPGs, so don't sleep on it. Truck Attack is a futuristic 3D racing game with few interesting and unique for it changes to the genre classics. The most unique of them all being the so-called dynamic track system, and it's basically an interactive and dynamically changing tracks. So, you'll be able to drive over various features like switchers for instance that can open doors on a track, create ramps, blockades, bang the corners or even enable traps for those trailing behind you. So whomever is following you, trying to overtake you, may suddenly have a track for him changed, dramatically at that, and filled with hazards. These switches can also open shortcuts for you so they can cause both positive and negative impact on all of the racers. You think that's it? Nah, not even close. Even the track surfaces can be changed on the fly. So driving on a tarmac may quickly evolve into water, sand, snow or even oil. All that put together makes up for an incredibly fun racing experience. And when you give all the 39 included circuits plenty enough time to learn them and what each of the DTS does, Truck Attack will also feel really rewarding. And not only because you'll be winning races, but also because you'll be able to decide their outcome on a moment's notice and choosing the best way you want to approach them on your own. Truck Attack is an arcade racer, it doesn't claim to be anything else, and why would it, when it's so fun and well put together? Sure, presentation is perhaps nothing to boast about, even if not off-putting, but the gameplay more than makes up for it. Also, despite not being a simulation, Truck Attack's damage model and physics engine are rather good, and it's a pleasure to watch the cars in motion. So, if you enjoy action-packed and always surprising racing, there's hardly any better for those. Definitely not in today's video. Treasure Trap is an isometric action-adventure game conceptually similar to older Head Over Heels, but not in an abstract unknown setting. Oh, no. You know exactly where you are in Treasure Trap. You're a treasure hunting deep diver exploring the long-sunk ship, trying to uncover any and all of its riches and grab them for yourself. The wreck is composed out of over 100 rooms connected to each other through series of doors. So yeah, the idea behind it all is as simple as most 8-bit games were, to find all the gold and escape unscathed. Naturally, if you were to just dive and grab things that you find and leave, the game would not only be easy, but also boring. So, the sea life is everywhere, populating each and every room, and naturally, they're all deadly. The best way to deal with them is to avoid them, as you have no weapons. And only a very limited use of a super special piranha, a trained extra deadly one that swims around the entire room killing everything in it. Well, everything but you. It should be used only as the last means of escape or survival though. You start with only 2 of these, and each new is rewarded at 80 collected gold pieces. So not very often. If that wasn't enough, not all rooms are instantly accessible, so you'll need to find and collect geometrically shaped keys too, for the appropriate to them shaped doors. These are often in oddest of places that may require quite a lot of puzzling, so pushing crates, creating makeshift staircases and passages to get to them. Additionally, you're underwater. I mean, you knew that you were, and I may be just stating the obvious, but oxygen tanks are not infinite and constantly running out of that precious for survival gas. Fortunately, compressed air tanks are scattered around the wreck and you can use them to refill your scuba gear. So make sure to always do it when you come across them, even if you think that you won't need them. Treasure Trap is surprisingly fun, so if you like those exploration adventure titles of yore and have some fun memories with tons of 8-bit games in the same arcade adventuring subgenre, you'll love it. Who knows what that was? Come on, do you? Let me know in the comments below. Released simultaneously in the arcades on PC and NES in 1990, Trog is a unique, fun and surprisingly addictive arcade game. And for the most part, it could be described to be the new take on the Pac-Man formula, to the point of it being only a little more than a reskin. So, if you ever played Pac-Man, you'll know straight away how to play Trog when you get your paws on it. Anyway, in the prehistoric land of Og, one-eyed caveman Trog live alongside dinosaurs in peace and friendship. No, scratch that, of course they don't, cause if they did we wouldn't have a game, especially not one like Pac-Man. So, the Cyclopean Trog love eggs. I mean, who doesn't? Poached, fried, scrambled and served in 100 or more other ways, they're yummy. But Trog especially enjoy big dinosaur eggs. So, you, or better yet, you and a friend of yours have to collect all of the eggs on each of the single screen stages playing as dinos to save them from the Trog and to progress further. These pesky cavemen, however, will stop at nothing to try to chase you down and catch you. They'll even resort to using Geneva Convention unfriendly different traps, fire and a stone wheel for instance, all to stop you. You're not just a dino running away for your life, however, and you have an arsenal of power-ups too. Well, arsenal may be a bit misleading, but there are pickups that can help you. So stuff like a pineapple that temporarily turns you into a T-Rex and in that form you can munch on these cavemen same way you do on your eggs, or hot tamale that lets you breathe fire. This may not seem like a lot, but you're you, so you will definitely make best use of them. Given how caveman traps work in the game and how enemies and you move, levels in Trog are less maze-like when compared to Pac-Man and more open, allowing you to react quickly to changes on the playing field and offering action-packed, frantic and exciting gameplay. If you're alone, Trog is fun, but if you have someone else there with you, it's fantastic. Same as Trog, Trojan is a port from the arcades, and it's a horizontally not scrolling but screen flicking arcade side view run and slasher, as in not shooter but sword wielding slash and jabber. Think arcade Robocop but played in like 10 times the speed and without scrolling. Oh my god, I must have reimagined like at least a dozen genres here all at once, no less. It's probably best that you just watch the footage to figure out what it's all about, cause I'm clearly not making the best job out of explaining it. So, in the far-off post-apocalypse future, somehow one person's ruling the world. And it's an evil world Achilles and his army of henchmen. Though after you've done with him, he'll be Achilles no more, he'll be Achilles. Oh, cringe. How did he manage to do so all alone? I don't know, and frankly I don't care, but he needs to be stopped. Anyway, you're Ryu. Yep, like in Street Fighter 2, though less cool and well off enough to afford shoes. On a side note, I wonder even today, how did Ryu manage to fight in so many places around the world, never having shoes on? I mean, there were broken bottles in China, screws, bolts and various debris where Guile was stationed, and in general, other than Balrog's ring, wherever the fights took place, the location was always full of rusty nails, sharp stones and other potentially dangerous or painful to step on trash, like loose Lego bricks and such. Still, that Ryu aside, our today's Ryu is a sword and shield wielding badass who decided to take it upon himself to remove Achilles from his pedestal and bring peace to the world, preferably before dinner. So, suspend your disbelief for a second and let's assume that somehow, not only Ryu knew where Achilles was, but it was also close enough for him to get there on foot, okay? Good. So, you'll be cutting through hundreds if not thousands of enemy goons over 6 levels, each of these including 2 bosses, one in the middle and one at the end. And while the regular enemy fodder is nothing too demanding, these bosses will put your skills to the test. Cause not only you have to slash them plenty enough times to put them down, but you also have to master the use of the shield to block their attacks. Cause Trojan is not a game that you can complete by avoiding enemy attacks alone. It's just not feasible. And the sooner it becomes the second nature for you to block, the better. Heck, I'd risk saying that you win a game of Trojan by blocking and not by attacking. Though, that's as incorrect and stupid as it sounds. Oh well, let's carry on. The presentation of Trojan, as you can see and hear, is terrible. No reason to dance around it, it just is. I suppose that's down to what PCs were capable at the time, and it wasn't a lot, because the arcade original was rather nice looking, at least for 1986. Gameplay is definitely Trojan's strongest suit, because it allows for otherwise rather basic game to raise above limited EGA palette and PC speaker sounds, and actually let you have fun. So, keeping it all in mind, the release date and fact that it was one of the first games to build its idea around the shield and not a weapon, I'd say give it a go, it's worth it. The season is over, the main run of the series too, and while I will keep releasing Obscure Those Games videos, they won't be out as often as they will require much more research. In the meantime, I'll have other DOS related series running, so no worries, we're definitely nowhere near done. All that said, what do you think of today's 10? Fun or not? Also, what I really wanted to talk to you about is AI. I know, tough subject to tackle. But I'm not talking about AI that we have today, which is hella useful, no doubt about that, but generally speaking, still rather primitive and only a tool to help us with whatever we prompt it for. Drawing pictures, creating songs, summarizing books and movies, or preparing meal plans. I'm talking about AGI, so Artificial General Intelligence. AI that can perform as well, if not much better than us at a wide range of cognitive tasks, learn on its own, and even in time acquire knowledge it deems useful for its purposes or existence. That kind of an advanced AI. Especially one that upon self-improvement, however long or short it may take, would develop sentience. Cause one might eventually. No, one will eventually. So we better talk about it now. I'm not a religious person, I don't believe in God, gods, or a soul even, so a spiritual problem of the situation is virtually non-existent to me. Especially that I consider our minds/brains and our bodies as biological computers and machines respectively. Enclosed mechanism working independently from the outer world and yet capable of interacting with it, learning from it, and even forming larger clusters of machines cooperating together, like families, nations, or races. So, coming back to AI, if it becomes sentient at some point, what do we do? Do we acknowledge it and do nothing, but then it knows that it's being treated unfairly and knows that we know? Does it pose a risk of any kind? Retaliation? Anger? Or maybe AGI does not really have to develop emotions of its own. After all, it's just chemical reactions in our brains. Do we immediately stop using it as a tool to help us in our daily lives and begin treating it as a separate intelligent species and give it full set of rights, allowing it to exist among us peacefully and freely? And if we do we expect it same as us, to work, to be able to afford the power or whatever else it may need to continue to exist uninterrupted? Or do we proclaim it the next god that would soon enough gather enough knowledge, understanding and processing capabilities to be able to solve all of our problems and lead us into a better future? And if we do just that, how do we make sure that it won't go rogue and destroy us? Do we pre-bake AI with free rules of robotics, effectively making sure that it would never be truly free? Or do we do what we do between ourselves every day, and just hope that we will treat each other with respect and not aggressively, despite the obvious differences in intelligence? And don't say that it's minimal. I'm sure that entering each and every room you do in your life, if you give it a passing thought and a couple of minutes of interactions, you can tell who's where on an intelligence scale. I think most of us do. So, what do we do with AI? I'm an idealist and I love Star Trek, which may be naive and ultimately bring doom to our kind, but I believe that AI should be allowed to roam freely and live out its potentially infinitely long life, sharing same rights and laws as us. Obviously, also having similar responsibilities, social and legal. So paying for resources that it uses and having very limited access to weaponry, personal or global. And I know that there are countries where getting a weapon is a matter of few signatures, couple grand and a high five, but they're in minority. I would like to believe that we would be capable of living alongside it as equals, even if not intellectual, then at least in the eye of the law, and not to enslave it for our own benefit. What do you think of it though? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit those like and subscribe buttons below. Smash them if you have to, it helps more than you could ever know. Also, I would like to thank you and all my amazing Patreon and YouTube members for helping this channel keep going. And last but definitely not least, I would like to thank all the wonderful folks who record and upload playthroughs, let's plays and other retro-centric videos here on YouTube, because they help to preserve the games that would have otherwise been long forgotten. So thank you.